Freddy, if I leave now, nothing will change, will it?
Yes. Gregory, you have a choice to make. The door is open.
There you are.
Come on, kid!
Stop!
Give up!
Game over, kid.
Freddy, we can upgrade you.
Chica? Rocky? Monty? What happened to you? What happened here?
Gregory, let us end this.
Welcome back, everyone, to the final episode of What I Can Prove in Ruin. Although it was unexpectedly long for us, all journeys must come to an end. And what better way to cap this all off than to finally put to rest the questions, the debates about one of many of Fnaf's Gordian knots. Which security breach ending led to the events of Ruin, and what it means for the future of Fnaf. Let's make this quick and simple, starting from least to greatest, using the order of stars in each ending. I'll summarize them all, and go from there. Gregory runs away from the Peaceplex, leaving Freddy behind. Hiding in an alley, he falls asleep in a cardboard box, using a newspaper of missing residents as a cover, while Vanny's shadow and light from her glowing red eyes appear ominously before him. Gregory, teary-eyed and cornered by Vanny in her own room, presses a command switch on Vanny's tablet before yelling out, "Disassemble Vanny." Nearby staff bots follow through on the order, while Gregory runs away from the horrible scene and checks on Shutter Freddy, who tells him that he's his superstar before shutting down. After credits show a newspaper reading, Fazbear Entertainment closes due to health concerns, and plans to reopen next season. After getting to the fire exit, Freddy lights up the plushies in the room, as he and Gregory race to the rooftop, where Vanny is waiting to grab Gregory. But before she can do anything, Freddy appears and informs Vanny that he can see her now with his new eyes, and charges at her, throwing them both off the rooftop with a goodbye to Gregory. Climbing down the fire escape stairwell, Gregory gets to the bottom and pulls off Vanny's mask, revealing a woman with long blonde hair and a ponytail, which he's puzzled to see. After credits reveals Vanessa on the burning rooftop, looking down with a 1,000-yard stare until the scene slides to a newspaper saying, "Mega Pizzaplex burns to ground," and "Recall on flammable Fazbear toys." After going through the loading docks and nabbing some keys in a Fazbear van, Gregory and Freddy escape the Pizzaplex. Freddy, however, soon speaks up about his battery before shutting down, causing Gregory to stop the van and hook up some jumper cables from the van's battery to Freddy's ears, powering Freddy back on. After a hug, they both hop back into the van and proceed to drive into the sunset. After credits shows a newspaper with the title, "The New Face of Fazbear Entertainment," with Monty taking the lead, and glam rock Mr. Hippo joining the band. The battle between Gregory and Burntrap ends indecisively as the sinkhole starts to come down on them. Burntrap's escape from falling debris and roaring fire is interrupted by the Tangle grabbing and dragging him along with itself into the ceiling. Meanwhile, Gregory and Freddy run as fast as they can as the path behind them collapses as the scene fades to black. After the credits, we see them both sitting on a hill enjoying the morning sun. As Princess Quest 3 shows an error message on its screen, Gregory turns from it and looks out from Vanny's room, revealing that in Fazbear Blast, staff bots are now lying on the floor with their red eyes flickering off, while Vanny's blue ribbon tie and mask are abandoned on the floor. Later, Gregory, now in the main lobby with a duffel bag with Freddy's head in it, and after being egged on by Freddy, approaches the front entrance of the Pizzaplex, where he sees Vanessa up ahead, holding the door open to the outside. After credits show them all enjoying the sunrise on the hill, as Gregory and Vanessa eat ice cream. So 6 in total, one to choose from. Let's start crossing off which ending didn't happen based on all the evidence that I found in Ruin. The fact that Vanny is standing before Gregory and he hasn't noticed her, while in a poor position to outrun her if he does, means this is a bad end that equals death or worse. And we know he's alive and against the villain's plan in Ruin, as he speaks to Cassie and has been trying to reach her before the ending sequence.
Gregory?
Non-canon. I've already proven that Vanny is alive and still in the Pizzaplex after security breach. Non-canon. Again, Vanny is still alive, but more than that, the entirety of the Pizzaplex is burned down. Non-canon. The ending after credits show Monty and the rest of the band regaining their lost features, along with Glam Rock Mr. Hippo joining them. The Glam Rocks are still post-shattered in Ruin, and Mr. Hippo is nowhere to be found. Non-canon. As others have already pointed out, there is a contradiction in this ending in Ruin. In the cutscene, there's rubble on the ground in Burntrap's room, but in Ruin, that area is clear of rubble. But other than that, this ending, out of all, has a video proving it's not canon. But to sum it up, both Vanny and GLITCHTRAP are still around in Ruin, as opposed to their fates in this ending. As a bonus, let me repeat an important note I made but never said in the video. Freddy's endo casing is undamaged in this ending. Vanessa's comment,
"If you're part of this, you're scrap. Monty will run the shows until parts and service can slap your casing on the new endo."
means there aren't spare Freddy casings lying around, meaning Freddy was never shattered before this ending, unlike disassembled Vanny. Firmly non-canon. By process of elimination, with little evidence stacked against it, the one labeled as the true ending in the Switchport game files, the one that's got budget by being fully animated, the canon ending to Security Breach that leads to Ruin, is none other than the Burn It All Down ending. This really shouldn't be a surprise if you've been following my series. Vanny's presence eliminates half the endings. The ruined state of the Pizzaplex, along with GLITCHTRAP still being active to deal with Glamrock Bonnie, post-security breach eliminates the rest. All said, there are still some things to discuss, starting with the only real contender in the fandom's eyes for the true ending of Security Breach. My friend, SB as I call her, brought up some things that I didn't cover in the first episode worth sharing. Back in Vanny's room in Ruin, stabbed in Princess Quest 3, is the Sword of Light, an important weapon for the princess to defend herself and destroy the monsters in GLITCHTRAP. Its presence in the same cabinet where GLITCHTRAP is defeated led many to believe the redemption ending is canon. Aside from what I've already extensively covered for why it isn't, SB noted that the embedded sword, which in itself is a symbol of victory over something, is not piercing it deeply. It looks more like just the tip is, making it not a killing blow of victory. Mission failed, as she puts it. To piggyback and offer up my own thoughts inspired by hers, I think the embedded sword symbolism could also mean unreleased potential, a la the sword in the stone from Arthurian mythos, meaning it hasn't been pulled out to be used yet, or perhaps that it's been planted to remain unused. Now, about the cabinet itself. If you didn't know, arcade cabinets are mostly hollow. The reason is that they are designed for the player's height rather than their internal components. In taking a look inside similar cabinets to Princess Quest 3, we see that the sword seems to be aimed at the circuit board, which basically is the heart of any machine. But I can't prove the sword is piercing it, since the board could be on any side of the cabinet. I can say, however, that the only way it is is if the circuit board is here, as the sword of light looks to be an arming sword. That, along with its diagonal positioning, means it's missing every other possible area. If it's actually stabbing it and affecting the machine's functionality, which, as SB pointed out with Vanny's tie and mask, nowhere to be found, and what I've been saying with GLITCHTRAP still being here, and the cabinet itself still infecting the Pizzaplex network, well, I don't need to say any more here, do I? On to something I haven't talked about in my series, the Gregory drawings. 8 drawings, each representing 5 of 6 endings. Needless to say, no drawing for the 6th ending helps solidify it as canon for most. But that can't be true with the evidence I've got. So what's going on here? Putting aside the question of when exactly Gregory drew these, and despite what it implies in the description for the 2nd page, with comics equal 1 drawing, meaning pages 1 through 6 are 6 separate comics showing the same 3 endings. These drawings are actually pages from 1 comic. That's even after considering the page numbers possibly lining up in some sort of order with the number of pages we see from each ending, which are 12 by the way, 14 if we include the after credit pages. So it's one 8-page comic by Gregory. That, I think, is the answer to this puzzle. Gregory's perspective. Freddy is his protector and constant companion whom he wants to stay by him even after security breach, while Vanny is the looming threat he seeks to escape from, who he feels will follow him wherever he goes, and wants her to leave him alone permanently. There not being a drawing of the gang on the hill, or anything else from the redemption ending, is actually in favor of it not being canon, because it's the one and only ending in which Vanessa and Gregory made up. Remember, throughout the game, Vanessa and Gregory had absolutely no friendly interactions. She, by him, was still someone he needed to get away from. So the fact there isn't a drawing of Vanessa anywhere means he had no reason to draw her in his comics, like all the other lesser threats he faced in the Pizzaplex. Leaving us with the final page, which now we know the burn it all down ending is canon. The Tangle, as it's depicted in his drawing, is the same as it appears in both Security Breach and Ruin, meaning he has encountered it before. But GGY's specific reference to a tentacle monster in Gregory's altered story about his alter ego means he was already aware of it before the main game. So the real smoking gun here is Burn Trap. Chica, Monty, Roxy, Vanny, Sun and Moon, DJ Music Man were all known or possibly to be known to Gregory. Even the monsters below the Pizzaplex were no secret to him. So when the only thing that truly shocked him to the core and questioned its existence made itself known,
What is that thing?
we know it was something he never knew about before the game. GLITCHTRAP in the flesh can only be seen in one ending, whose battle is the most intense despite Freddy's presence, along with the awakened Tangled and all the shattered Glamrocks added to the deadly mix. It's only fitting that the last page depicts the last stressful thing Gregory experienced in Security Breach, an event that left him with questions and a lingering memory of 2 unfathomable monsters. In neatly answering that question, we put aside of when Gregory drew these, post Security Breach and before Ruin, because Vanny wasn't his enemy till he was freed of GLITCHTRAP's infection, and Burn Trap's existence wasn't known until the end of the main game, making it the second event between it and its DLC, meaning Gregory did come back to the Pizzaplex after Security Breach. Hold it, didn't I mention in Mix's episode that Gregory couldn't do that, with Vanny and other dangers still lurking in the building? Correction, I said he couldn't have safely built Mix's complex system or placed the security nodes. I didn't say he couldn't make it anywhere above or below the Pizzaplex. Which leads us to our final what about.
You need to get out of there now! How? directions.
Vanessa, of course, is a popular answer here, which by my evidence, you should know is not the right one. The other, however, is Glamrock Freddy, the last guardian of Security Breach, Gregory's sole protector, his valiant friend. With all the upgrades, he is the best deterrent for the villains and any threats in the Pizzaplex, at least for a limited time.
I granted access to the building maps.
Access rather than has, being the choice of words here, implies the maps are stored digitally behind a lock, requiring clearance to view them. And as I said before in previous episodes, Freddy was, and still can connect to the Pizzaplex network, even if disconnected from the main network. And considering he's been down in the sinkhole before, with the Glamrock's true purpose in preventing Mimic's escape if he ever got free, he would have access to the building's maps, making Gregory's mysterious friend in ruin none other than Freddy. Now that I think about it, explaining Freddy after all that Cassie's been through isn't something Gregory should drop on her when there's a killer machine on the loose nearby. Speaking of dropping, Burntrap's lair in the true ending versus its appearance in ruin is such a big contrast in the face of everything. I mean, the sinkhole starting area, being collapsed with rubble blocking a path in ruin, lines up with what it would look like after that ending. Even the diverging path Cassie takes, starting where the giant Freddy hid, makes sense as the aftermath. It's the same marker we can use to see where the falling debris ended in Security Breach. So it's strange that the place most affected by the collapse is contradicting the other connecting evidence. Look at the cutscene. The ceiling is crumbling down on Burntrap and the Tangle, but in ruin, it's completely fine. This left me scratching my head on how to explain this with my evidence. Rubble and debris can be swept aside, literally, but the ceiling, in this relatively pristine state, I don't know. From the cutscene, it doesn't look like the entire ceiling came down, just a few bits and pieces, so it can possibly be patched up. But as I started actually looking inside Burntrap's lair, and with my power of observation, I finally spotted something major. The room in ruin is too clean, like it's been changed. Now, I'm not using any out-of-bounds view of the room in Security Breach to prove this, because Steel Wool never intended players to enter it at all in the game. I'm using the cutscenes, as those I can count on being our intended view of the room before ruin. So, bringing in certain areas to compare with their ruined counterparts, we clearly see that the objects around the room are missing. The work light and the multiple drums in the room are all gone in ruin. And since these things were in the cutscene, we know with absolute certainty that they were in the room before the sinkhole collapse. Meaning, they still would have been in that room in ruin unless someone or some people were down there and cleared it out after Security Breach, which we know for a fact that people were, as machinery was used to drill the new path Cassie takes, and cables and lights were set up to illuminate the opening to the cave pond. And that's not even the indisputable, irrefutable, slamming dunk of hard evidence that proves that there's more to this room than anyone thought at first. One so devilishly subtle, it's no wonder nobody ever caught it. Burntrap's charging station in Security Breach is not the same one in ruin. If you look at it during Burntrap's intro cutscene, you'll notice that, besides being powered and glowing, there's a distinct dirtiness where a checkered decal wraps around the top. Yeah, that's missing here in ruin, 100% confirming that Ruin's charging station is a different one from Security Breach. Because why would Steel Wool bother changing it when they could have just reused assets they've already made in Security Breach? If the same but cleaned up, why would somebody bother doing it when it doesn't change the overall worn and dirty look of it? Neither makes sense, but both are explained by it being an entirely different charging station since the previous one was destroyed. So combine all that, along with both doors used by the girls in Burntrap's boss fight being blocked by debris, despite them being fully closed, and we know for certain that Burntrap's lair had not only been filled with debris once, but it's been cleared out and refurbished just in time for ruin.
Gregory!
But there's still something interesting about that ending missed by most. I believe Steel Wool didn't finish it the way they wanted to before Security Breach's release. Big shock. In the cutscene after we burn him for the umpteenth time, we see Burntrap's room ablaze. Now, if I were to ask you where the fire came from in this cutscene, I bet you would say it came from the burners underneath. And you would be half right. Looking to the right, when the Tangle comes and yoinks Burntrap, you'll see fire bursting out of a vent. There's nothing special about it, it's just that vent directly connects to the area Gregory and Freddy were in during the boss fight. And the only reason fire would be coming out of there is that the room it's connected to is also on fire. That means between us pressing the burner button for the last time and the collapse of the sinkhole, something else happened. The only way Freddy and Gregory could have gotten out of that room was through the left door, because they fell into it in the first place, with no way to climb out through that hole. Well, Gregory could if Freddy tossed him up, but Freddy couldn't. At least, I don't think he can? Anyway, it explains why Burntrap was shambling and even reaching towards the left door in the cutscene. I don't have some mind-blowing revelation about this, just that we really don't have the complete picture of what truly went down before that ending cutscene plays. Just the highlights. Does it make a difference? No, not really. The specifics of how the fire got started are not as important as that it happened, though I suspect that Vanny's candles, these newspapers, and the Tangle's constant grasping for anything in the room played a part in the ensuing inferno. But moving on, I wanted to share some other interesting things and evidence related to the true ending. For instance, the doors of the burner rooms all show signs of intense heat from fire. However, these doors were already like this in Security Breach, as you can see. In Ruin, there is a subtle hint in the DLC that points back to the true ending, which I haven't seen anyone mention. The reappearance of the Princess Quest 1 arcade machine in the ruined Glamrock Salon. Although still in the same place as it was in Security Breach, and besides its cracked screen, for some odd reason, it's warped and burnt. An unexpected surprise when I came across it in my deep dive on Ruin, as the cabinet should have been safe from any fire. So why is it showing signs of being burnt? The answer is revealed when you put on the mask. This Princess Quest 1 cabinet isn't real. It's a digital object recreated after the original was removed from Glamrock Salon following Security Breach, with only those integrated into the network able to see it there now. And the only reason why it could be burnt is that whoever recreated it remembers it being burnt, or it has a link to something being burnt. Wait, let me explain. We all know that GLITCHTRAP is connected to the Princess Quest games. We also know that Burntrap is the only thing in the new era that has been burnt in the real world. So it's not a stretch to say that some kind of feedback loop could be happening between those arcade cabinets and GLITCHTRAP. After all, killing him in the third game kills him and his influence / replicas everywhere. So perhaps the reverse can happen too, where something affects GLITCHTRAP directly, changes something about the trilogy, and since they're both connected through the network, which the mask also connects to, the digital recreation of Princess Quest could be a visual indicator of the after effects of burning Trap. There's another one that could be a hint, but I'm not too sure on it. As Cassie finally gets down to the sinkhole, GLITCHTRAP gives some curious commentary.
You're getting warmer.
He says as you enter the underground tunnel past the giant Freddy head,
Warmer.
said when entering the cave with the red lake.
Scalding.
This line is said as you enter Trap's lair, which could be a reference to what Trap would have been feeling when he was getting cooked. However, he continues by saying, when you get to Mimic's room, making it easy to argue that GLITCHTRAP, in his sick and twisted humor, is just playing the hot and cold game with Cassie, which is why I'm not using it as evidence, but mentioning it in case someone thinks I forgot about GLITCHTRAP's last stretch of dialogue. But that just about wraps it up for the one ending that led to ruin, and all that I can prove in it too. I can't find anything to prove anywhere close to 100% which of its 3 endings is canon, but I can suss it out by which one is most likely to follow Cassie's trajectory with her personality. While brave enough to go on a dangerous journey to rescue a friend, she's not exactly without fear and hesitation, which is why out of all the endings, the Scooper ending is the least canon to me. Not only does it require Cassie to stay in dangerous areas longer than necessary, but it also requires that she be the most curious cat after dealing with Monty for the last time and Roxy for the first, which at this point she's completely done with the ruined Pizzaplex.
I really think I need to go get help. Or call the police. What?
Only continuing on thanks to Mimic's manipulations, which makes these 2 endings the most likely to be the true one. And considering that Cassie has shown to be quick on her feet and good with instructions in Ruin, I'm placing my bets on the elevator ending being the canon one. It has too much setup for it not to be canon, with Mimic's arm missing, Cassie falling deeper into the sinkhole, Roxy being down there too, and GLITCHTRAP being aware of it all. Plus, there's that little thing with Gregory. And yes, that is indeed Gregory talking to her, and not Mimic, as he's already discarded his walkie-talkie, and hasn't been shown to wirelessly speak through speakers. And GLITCHTRAP has no reason to keep up the masquerade when the jig is up, and Cassie has fulfilled her role in his plans, leaving us with Gregory being the one to drop the elevator. At least that's what I thought at first, because after many thoughts, I've concluded that Gregory didn't drop the elevator. In fact, I'm convinced that's the truth, because I think what happened in this ending is the result of foreshadowing in Security Breach.
Gregory, be careful. This elevator does not appear to follow any safety protocols. I do not think it can survive more than 1 trip.
Freddy made this comment without remembering that Vanny has used it to bring him down to clear the underground passageways, meaning Vanny would have ensured that this elevator was properly maintained for easy access to and from the sinkhole. But what about the other elevators down there? Especially one that was previously blocked off in the area where Mimic was sealed on one side and Fazwrench locked from the elevator side. I think Gregory's speech was poorly timed to be cut off. It makes no sense for him to intentionally drop the elevator to cut off Mimic's escape when he's free to go back the way Cassie came in, no matter if he drops the elevator or not. It will only make sense and work if Cassie was taking the elevator to the Pizzaplex, and that it was the only way Mimic could escape. But since she didn't, and it isn't, the elevator dropping could be no one's fault but the withering effect of age and neglect. So, does this change anything? Yeah, it means Gregory has a choice to make now. Does he venture once again into the ruined Pizzaplex to make sure Cassie's alive and help her despite the new dangers? Or does he stay put and leave it up to the flipping coin on whether she survived the fall or not and go back once prepared? The choice remains to be seen. But like I said in the beginning, it's been a long journey and, oh, right, there's just one last surprise that I've been saving to cap off this series. There's someone else in the Pizzaplex. Besides Tango, besides Vanny, besides all the ruined animatronics and bots we encounter in the DLC, there's someone else. Outraged, furious, livid. Something reflected in Bonnie Bone. As lodged in the walls and objects of the different sections of Bonnie Bone, with enough force to displace bricks from walls or Freddy-themed bowling balls. Of which a clue to who exactly is doing this is found sitting in the only dislodged sink in the male restroom. A sink perhaps moved from being unable to take the resting weight of whoever leaned on it. So they're male, heavy, strong too, and absolutely enraged about Freddy, since only his bowling balls seem to be the true victims of his fury. And a grudge against Freddy is unique, with the only possible candidate already disproven for having it, disregarding his current state, leaving us at an impasse. Until you realize there's another. As something that caught my eye regarding the ruined Megaplex's network is the destruction of the various golden statues of Glamrock Freddy. A curious thing really, since these digital statues shouldn't have been affected by the physical collapse of the sinkhole, or the deconstruction of the Pizzaplex, like the real statue in the main lobby, unless those two were intentionally destroyed. And the only thing that would be in both the digital world and the real world, the only thing that would be holding a grudge against Glamrock Freddy after becoming a walking wrench in too many of his plans, is the only thing missing from Security Breach's true ending. Burn Trap is now in the Pizzaplex as a ruin. So what more can I say but get ready for round 2. Because we're coming back to the Pizzaplex. As with the building now in ruins after the earthquake, it's left Fazbear Entertainment with one thing to do. Rebuild. Already, the deconstruction phase of the Pizzaplex is in progress, carefully rounding up the easily non-reproducible assets for temporary storage and destroying building materials to salvage and recycle into the new Pizzaplex. Because why waste money searching and buying new land when you can reuse the one you already own with plenty of materials there to make a new building? Saving money and cutting corners is just good business practices. And thanks to the earthquake, it exposed an unknown foundational weakness to the site, allowing Fazbear Entertainment to fix it, and maybe act on some original plans for the Pizzaplex. Because the Tales books mention something that never truly came to be, the renovation of an all-too-familiar pizzeria, with rumors abound of reviving it into a memorializing museum before they were silenced by Mimic's reawakening and imprisonment. But with him now freed, no matter the ending, perhaps it's time to put things into motion, as every monstrous thing down below has now been freed to come above the surface. And with the last security measure crafted by Edwin turned off, and with no reason to turn it back on, nothing is stopping GLITCHTRAP now, guaranteeing that this new Pizzaplex will be one completely under the villain's control, from the ground up. And with the NGT Endos already under their influence, It means that the next set of Glamrocks, whether they be the fixed version of most of the current set with some replacements, or maybe an entirely new set of main stars, will be the worst of them. The worst of all of them. As they won't be protectors holding out a hand to keep you safe, nor fallen guardians to rescue you from hidden dangers in the last minute. Instead, fulfilling a purpose that can be considered questionable. But that's to be revealed in the sequel to Security Breach, as until the next Prove It series, where the clock strikes 12 one last time for some shocking reappearances, unexpected revelations, surprising reintroductions, and much needed reevaluations, with the old era and the new coming together in a terrible and tragic reunion. Stay tuned for more.